The other day I was just chilling at home and I was scrolling around online and kept seeing everyone hyping up this super popular series. Like, you absolutely have to watch this everywhere I looked. So I thought, alright, I'll give it a shot. But the moment I started the first episode, things got so weird and chaotic on screen that I just froze for a second. I honestly wasn't ready for that at all. On one side, there are these weird robot-like aliens, and they've kidnapped the main girl. They're doing all kinds of strange things to her. While watching it, I genuinely found it super bizarre. Honestly, I almost said, this is getting ridiculous. What am I even watching right now? And was this close to closing the video. That anime I almost dropped right there is Dandadan. But later on, I'm really glad I didn't. Because once that initial this is just nonsense feeling passes, what comes after turns out to be one of the most chaotic and original series in recent years. In today's video, we're going to talk about that exact experience. The anime that pushed me away at first, but ended up hooking me completely, along with the characters, and even some of my own theories for upcoming events for those who are following the manga. But before we get into all that, let's take a quick break. If you enjoy anime analysis, character breakdowns, and theory videos like this, you can subscribe to the channel before we continue. We've already gone through I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, and now we're back with another series. Your support honestly means a lot to me. And if you're already subscribed, then let's jump right into the characters and the main direction of the story. When we leave behind those mind-blowing opening scenes and return to where the real story begins, the school, we're met with something very familiar, yet strangely melancholic. First, we meet Okarun. He's basically the definition of a nerd. Socially awkward, extremely introverted, and constantly bullied at school. He doesn't have a single real friend, and everyone treats him like a joke. But in his inner world, he has one escape: aliens and UFOs. He's so obsessed and so lonely that deep down, he even wishes aliens would come and befriend him, just so someone would finally acknowledge him. His way of trying to connect with the world is so unusual that it's clear he has no idea how normal communication works anymore. His UFO obsession has basically become his only safe space. Then, Momo Ayase enters the story. Momo is the complete opposite of Okarun. She's popular, socially active, and has that don't mess with me kind of aura. From the outside, she looks like one of those cool, slightly distant girls you'd expect in school, the classic tsundere type vibe. But beneath that tough exterior, she actually has a strong sense of justice and a deeply caring personality. She absolutely can't stand unfairness. In fact, she steps in and rescues Okarun from the bullies without hesitation, even though she barely knows him. At the same time, Momo has her own hidden side. She believes in spirits and ghosts, but completely rejects the idea of aliens, saying they're nonsense. And that's where things get interesting. These two completely opposite beliefs clash the moment their paths cross. One believes in aliens but not ghosts, the other believes in ghosts but not aliens. It quickly turns into a pride battle between them. Momo sends Okarun to a supposedly haunted tunnel to prove his beliefs wrong. Meanwhile, Okarun sends Momo to an abandoned, eerie hospital rumored to be a hotspot for aliens. Both of them are basically thinking the same thing. Go there, realize you're wrong, and admit it. But what they don't realize is that something massive is waiting for them, something that completely breaks the rules of everything they think they know about reality. At night, as both of them head toward their separate destinations, they're actually thinking the same thing. I'll go there, nothing will happen, and tomorrow I'll make fun of them at school. But that's exactly where Dandadan's famous madness kicks in. In most stories, you either have aliens or ghosts. Usually fiction picks one side. But this anime looks at the audience and says, why not both? The moment Momo steps into the hospital, she is suddenly abducted by the robotic Serpo aliens I mentioned at the very beginning. Before she even understands what's happening, she finds herself inside a spaceship, surrounded by those bizarre creatures. That's when she realizes aliens are real, far more dangerous and absurd than she ever imagined. At the exact same time, on the other side of the tunnel, Okarun is experiencing the shock of his life. Instead of a fake silhouette or local myth, he comes face to face with the town's urban legend. Turbo Granny. Turbo Granny is not your typical crying corner ghost. She's foul-mouthed, incredibly fast, and a complete menace who curses her victims without mercy. As soon as she sees Okarun, she attacks him and places a curse on him right there. In short, Both of them end up trapped inside the very nightmares they tried to prove each other wrong with. And the craziest part is that these two separate horrors somehow connect. After being cursed, Okarun doesn't completely lose consciousness, but his body undergoes a terrifying transformation. The weak, shy boy is gone, replaced by something completely different. With his wild hairstyle, eerie mask-like expression, and overwhelming cursed energy, he becomes something far more intense. In this cursed form, he goes all the way to the hospital, the aliens' base, to rescue Momo, a boy possessed by a ghost curse fighting aliens. It sounds ridiculous, but it's insanely entertaining to watch. Of course, Momo doesn't just sit there waiting to be saved like a helpless princess. The extreme stress of the situation, along with Okarun's attempt to help her, awakens the hidden powers within her. The psychic abilities she inherited from her famous medium grandmother awaken for the very first time. Our tough, no-nonsense tsundere girl begins fighting back against alien technology, with the massive aura bursting from her hands. When that first night in the hospital finally ends, what do we have? A psychic girl who has just discovered her powers, and a half-ghost boy who has lost, well, some very important parts of his body to a cursed spirit. After this incident, a normal school life is basically impossible for them, because now they've become the #1 targets of both aliens and other cursed spirits. This anime starts exactly like that. Pure chaos in the literal sense. And you know how some series explode in the first few episodes and then slow down? Dandadan is not one of them. Not even close. These bizarre, ridiculous events never slow down. In fact, they escalate with every single episode. One moment, they're fighting a giant sumo wrestler ghost, and the next, alien beings who fight like boxers are raiding their house. The absurdity gets so extreme that while watching, you keep thinking, how much crazier can this possibly get? And just when you think it has peaked, the mangaka basically looks at you and says, we're just getting started. But here's the best part. You know what really makes this series stand out? Even while it's drowning in absurd comedy and non-stop action, it suddenly hits you from an unexpected angle. It's incredibly sweet and genuinely heartfelt character relationships. Normally, when aliens are flying around and ghosts are chasing you, you don't really have the time, or even the mood, to think about romance, right? But the dynamic between Momo and Okarun is written so naturally and so beautifully that it almost feels like the true heart of the series. As I mentioned earlier in the video, Momo carries that tsundere-like energy, even if she's not a full tsundere. On the outside, she keeps that bold, slightly rebellious, confident girl image. She's sharp-tongued, cool, and never holds back what she thinks. But when she's with Okarun, you slowly start to see those walls breaking down. Okarun, on the other hand, transforms in the opposite direction. He goes from being shy, insecure, and socially awkward into someone who, when it comes to protecting Momo, is willing to throw himself into danger without a second thought. And it's so obvious that they like each other. The way they accidentally brush hands while walking and both instantly turn red, or how they try to confess their feelings, but always end up derailing the conversation into something awkward and random. Even in the middle of alien invasions and curses, they still manage to deliver that warm, heart-fluttering anime romance energy. Watching their moments together becomes just as enjoyable as the insane action scenes themselves. Of course, the madness doesn't stop with just Momo and Okarun. As the story progresses, the cast keeps expanding with characters so bizarre and unique that each one feels like they belong to a completely different world. First, I have to talk about Momo's grandmother, Seiko. She's technically a grandma, but if you saw her, you'd probably think she was Momo's older sister. She looks ridiculously young, constantly smokes, acts incredibly laid back, and just so happens to be one of the strongest mediums in the entire country. Honestly, if it weren't for the protective barriers she set up around the house, our protagonist probably would have been eaten alive by aliens on day one. But no matter how powerful Seiko is, they still can't completely destroy Turbo Granny from that tunnel incident. Instead, they managed to neutralize her and seal her spirit inside a cat plushie. Yes, you heard that right. A terrifying cursed spirit ends up spending her days wandering around the house as a grumpy cat doll that never stops insulting people. The absurd comedy that comes from this situation is absolutely priceless. Then we move on to school drama and some of the series' most memorable side characters. The first one is Era, a pink-haired girl who joins the story later on. I'm not gonna lie, I genuinely couldn't stand her at first. You know those people at school who look like angels on the outside? Everyone adores them, but behind the scenes they're constantly spreading gossip and causing trouble? That's basically Era. On top of that, she believes she's some kind of chosen one, and even treats Momo like she's a demon. Watching those early episodes, you're constantly thinking, can someone please get this girl off my screen? But this is Dandadan, and nobody gets to stay normal for long. Era ends up swallowing a fragment of Turbo Granny's power and becomes cursed as well. After witnessing her acrobatic silky transformation and learning about the tragic events connected to it, it's hard not to sympathize with her a little. Still, that doesn't completely erase how annoying she was in the beginning. And let's not forget the fact that she starts making moves on Okarun and tries to get between our adorable main duo. Honestly, that's enough to drive anyone crazy. As if Era wasn't enough, another character soon joins the cast. Gigi, or Jin and Joji. Gigi is Momo's childhood crush. At first glance, he looks like the perfect anime heartthrob. Tall, handsome, and effortlessly cool. But after watching him for 2 minutes, you quickly realize he's an absolute idiot in the best possible way. He's ridiculously energetic, constantly acting weird, and never sits still for even a second. Gigi's arrival throws everything into chaos. Okarun becomes insanely jealous, while Momo has no idea how to handle the situation. But more importantly, Gigi's storyline introduces one of the series' most dangerous and terrifying curses, the evil eye. So yeah, ever since these pink-haired troublemakers joined the cast, Momo and Okarun haven't had a single moment of peace, and neither has this video. As you can see, the cast gets crazier with every episode. But where is this story actually heading? Now, let's talk about a few theories I've come up with based on the small hints the anime has given us so far. If you've been paying attention, there are two concepts in this universe that should normally be complete opposites. On one side, you have aliens, representing pure science fiction. On the other, you have ghosts, which belong entirely to the supernatural and mystical side of things. Normally, these two ideas exist in completely different genres, yet somehow, Dandadan throws both of them together into the same world. My main theory is that aliens and ghosts are actually connected. More than that, they may even depend on each other. Think about it. The aliens constantly come to Earth trying to steal human genetic material and reproductive abilities. They repeatedly mention that they lack certain emotions and forms of life energy. Ghosts, meanwhile, are born from intense human emotions, lingering regrets, anger, and negative energy. What if the aliens are really after that spiritual power? Until the next bizarre adventure, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.